Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers. Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina, everyone. Today, I'm back in the studio with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, my favorite day of the week when I get to chat and pick your brains. And we talk about all things law and all the good things that come with it. But today, we're talking about last will and testament. Alrighty. Why don't you start us off?
Have at it, Will.
Yeah, we like to start with a bright topic, a happy topic. But unfortunately, we all will need or will pass away at some point, and we'll need to dispose of our property. Purpose of a last will and testament is to do that. And while you're alive, you can make those decisions so that the state doesn't make those decisions for you. So that's primary purpose, is to distribute your assets to those that you would like to have them. That's where a last will and testament comes in. Typically, when we do a last will and testament, we also add in a living will, which is making life decisions as well with regards to life-sustaining treatments and so forth. But in terms of a last will and testament, we handle primarily simple wills, so wills that are typically going to give things to the spouse and then the children, right? One of the things that I try to do, and we can add a little, informational section to the folks out there, is when spouses come in, I think they're under the misconception that everything's going to go to the other spouse, and it's going to be a very easy process. And it can be an easy process if you have a will. If you were to pass without a will, your spouse is only going to receive half of your property, and your children are going to take the other half in equal shares. But some practical tips before you even come to see me would be to make sure that what ends up being the biggest issues is automobiles.
Really?
Right, and mobile homes.
Okay.
And sometimes property as well. But the reason it is most people would assume that if you have a car and you and your spouse drive the car, and on the title it says, in my case, Mr. and Mrs. Parker, that you would think that would work, but it doesn't work, because what happens is Mr. Parker passes away, so now it's Mrs. Parker and the estate of Mr. Parker own that. Right, so now that half of that car belongs to the estate. So the easy way to solve that is go down to the DMV and double check and make sure that it says Mr. or Mrs. Parker.
It's that and.
Yeah,
Really
the or
ya.
makes it a lot easier, right? Otherwise, you have to go and become the personal representative to have the ability to go to dispose of the car.
So is there a good time to do this? An age?
Now,
as soon as possible?
Always have it.
We hear this a lot.
Now. And also, the same thing with mobile homes.
Okay.
Mobile homes are also, that's handled at the Department of Motor Vehicles. In terms of land or houses, the trick there is to make sure your deed says, and most, now attorneys are involved in closings in South Carolina, so typically this is the case, but always make sure that it says that you are joint tenants with right of survivorship. That will allow when the spouse passes that the other spouse automatically takes the other half. Okay. If you don't, it just causes more difficulty, and it causes the surviving spouse to have to go and be appointed as the personal representative. So that's kind of a practical tip.
It's a lot to think about, folks. And this is the sort of thing that obviously it's kind of going over my head, which is why you want to go to the experts. And you guys are doing a special right now where people can come to you for how much?
Yeah, so we decided to do a living local special for you, Katie.
Local special.
Yes. So if for an individual, we're handling a will and a living will for $250, and if you are a couple, we'll do the living will for both and the will for both for $450.
Alrighty, so can you give everybody the number to call before we go to break?
Yep, 843-357-4111, or you can contact us online at www.beachinjurylawyers.com.
Thank you, Will, for your last will and testament knowledge. And guys, stick with us. We've got more Beach Injury Lawyers coming up after the break.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Well, everyone, welcome back to Living Local Carolina. I'm joined by the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, Will and Greg. We were just talking about last will and testament, but now we're going to be talking about punitive damages, or whenever somebody is involved in a car accident and they need to be punished. Or why don't you explain this to the viewers a little bit better, guys?
Well, there are different types of damages that you can get, and let's just use it in an automobile accident setting.
Okay.
So, first of all, if you're injured, part of your damages are going to be you're going to recoup the cost of your medical care.
Okay.
All right? So that's an out-of-pocket expense.
Yeah.
Lost wages, that's another claim that you can make in order to recoup, again, your out-of-pocket damages. Everybody's heard of pain and suffering. Mm-hmm. So if you're injured, and there's no formula for that, but there's certain ways to argue it. But someone clearly, they've been hurt in an automobile accident, and they can make a claim for the pain, the suffering that they endured over the course of treatment, or if they're permanently injured, what they're going to suffer through for the rest of their life. Now, there's another type of damage, and it's called punitive damages, all right, or exemplary damages. So that can be available. It's not available in all cases, but so punitive damages are really, it's to punish, deter, and compensate. Okay, so those are the three buzzwords that I always think of when I talk about punitive damages. So let's take a rear-end collision case, all right? So you have a car, you're on 501, the person behind you is not paying attention, they smash you in the back, you're injured, you have to go through treatment. Is that a punitive damages case? All right, so in order to prove punitive damages, you got to show that it's a willful, malicious, reckless type conduct. So if they're just not paying attention, that's probably not something that's going to, that you're going to be able to classify as a punitive damages case. All right, so let's take another rear-end collision case. Let's say this one's with a tractor trailer. So a tractor trailer is going down I-95. They have signs, there are construction signs saying, slow moving traffic ahead. As they get closer to the scene, it says stop traffic ahead of you. And then there are more signs and more signs. And the truck driver, they don't even slow down.
They're on their cell phone, let's say.
It could be, right. So they don't even slow down. And there is a line of cars. This was actually a case that I was involved in a few years ago. And the truck driver slams into the back of a line of cars, causing a fiery explosion, multiple fatalities. So there you have two rear-end collision cases, all right? One, no, the first scenario, that's not gonna be something that's gonna make a jury mad, to want to punish the person. But the truck driver, who's, like you say, like Will said, he's either on his phone, he or she's on their phone, they're just not paying attention, that's outrageous conduct. That is outrageous conduct. And it's the type of conduct that the judicial system or the legal system wants to punish those who act in an outrageous manner. So, if you have those sort of facts, the law can step in and punish that truck driver who caused the fiery fatalities. Punitive damages also are meant to deter future conduct. It sends a message out to other truck drivers. Pay attention to what you're doing. Don't drive on your cell phone to where you're going to miss all the warning signs and it's going to end up in a fatality. And then lastly, compensate. It's there to compensate the injured victim of that outrageous conduct. So it's not available in all cases. Like against a governmental entity, there are no punitive damages. So again, in some cases it is, but it's an important thing to consider on a fact-by-fact case basis.
All right, well, thank you for clearing that up for me. Guys.
Now the most common would be, I just want to throw this, the most common would be drinking and driving.
That's right.
All right. So this is something you
That-
guys see quite frequently.
That's what we see probably the most.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Guys, stick with us because after the break, we're going to be talking with a family court lawyer, Regina Ward. So stick with us.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina, everyone. I'm still in the studio with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, but now we're joined by Regina Ward. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm so excited to have you on the show and learn a little bit more about what you do. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thank you. I've been practicing law for about 18 years. I've had my own practice here in Horry County for about the last 15 years. General practice law, meaning I do criminal, personal injury, as well as family court. Turns out that family court is my thing, though. That's the one that I've excelled at, and probably most of my reputation has been made on,
Why do you think that is?
because I'm really good at it.
But why? Do you love it?
I do, very passionate about it. Kind of a little bit of a history is I didn't have a really good experience myself when I went through a divorce myself. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be better than this. So most people think when you come across an attorney that they're all smart and they're all industrious and they're all, out there passionately fighting. But lawyers are people, I like to say, and there's all kinds of people. Yeah. So I'd always had I used to say I beat up my first bully in the 4th grade. So.
Of course.
Figuratively, of course.
Well, Regina has to be one of the more tenacious lawyers I've ever met, and that is a key ingredient to being successful as a lawyer is being tenacious. And once she gets a hold of something, she doesn't let go.
Wow, I love it.
I worked for Regina for a couple of years.
Did
and,
you?
Yes, and I learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually my law clerk when he came out of
Yeah.
All right.
law school. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's right.
So how long have you been here in Horry County?
I actually pretty much grew up here. Wasn't born here, but I grew up here. Moved away a few times, but it's they say once you get the sand between your toes, you just can't.
I know.
Can't leave. You always come
exactly,
back. So.
Exactly.
But yeah, graduated from North Myrtle Beach High School. Went to Coastal when it was USC at Coastal. So that tells you a little bit.
Well, that's awesome. What do you think is important for our viewers to know about what you do?
Well, something I'm very passionate about right now, and that is a new way to do, well, I shouldn't say a new way, but a different way to do uncontested divorces. Right now, the state of South Carolina has a set of documents that people can get and represent themselves in a divorce. Now, first of all, let me say I don't recommend anyone to necessarily represent themselves in a divorce when there are contested issues, such as when you're fighting over custody or visitation schedules or division of property, support, things like that. But if you're in a situation where you've already been separated for a very long time, or you've had an amicable division, you've handled all of these issues, and the only thing that remains is the divorce just itself, that becomes very simple. What I've learned is that people tend to put that off for in some cases, years. I've had people that have been separated for 10, 15 years, and I'm like, why? And they actually are in other relationships and have moved on with their life. They just haven't taken care of that final thing. And I'm like, why in the world would you wait so long? And most of them all say, well, lawyers are so expensive, or we just didn't have the time, or there was no reason to at the moment. But then the day comes when they want to get remarried, right? So it's like, oh, I got to take care of this one legality. So I really had put a lot of thought into it, and the things that I've come across is that for me to be able to help people in that situation, we had a lot of bad things happen from COVID, but we also had a lot of good things happen from COVID too. And one of those was that during that time, our family court system was getting backed up. And so people couldn't, go without court all this period of time. So they passed a rule that allowed us to do a divorce by submission. And what that means is that we prepare a packet of paper and submit that to the court. The judge reviews all the paperwork, and then they sign off on a divorce decree. No party has to go to court for this. The one catch, though, is you got to have a lawyer, because you have to have you got to have a lawyer in there. The lawyer has to verify that the parties have met all of the criteria necessary for the 1-year uncontested divorce.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Regina. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And guys, please remind everybody how to get in contact with y'all.
You can give us a call, 843-357-4111, or
Find us on IG, Instagram, or you can call us at 843-357-4111.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.